After moving to New York City from a small town, Ethan thought his life would change completely. He'd find himself a good job, a nice apartment, and life would be awesome. A few months in the city, and in a desperate job hunt, Ethan found himself working one odd job to another. At a cafe, a gas station, an electronics store. Everything seemed so hopeless. Until Ethan finally got some good news. He was hired as a 911 dispatcher at an operations call center in Long Island. All right, it wasn't like being an officer, a hero saving the day, but it was something. He was working for the law enforcement after all. Excited and motivated to serve, Ethan moved to Long Island and found a cozy studio. The neighborhood was calm and quiet by the beachside, yet just an hour away from the city with all conveniences at hand. But Ethan didn't quite expect how lonesome it could get out here. Ethan had the night shift, so he didn't get a chance to interact with many people at the operations call center. One of the few people he met was senior dispatcher Dwayne who assisted and guided him. Dwayne showed him around the office and informed him of the protocols he was to follow as a 911 dispatcher. Although Ethan was well aware of how to get his job done, he was polite and paid attention to Dwayne. Now let me warn you, at this call center, we do something a little differently. You're from the city, right? Yes, I am. What is it? In this area, we get numerous calls from all kinds of people, but when night falls, some strange people call in. Mind you, they're nothing but a waste of time. Don't start conversing with them, just disconnect the line. But what if there's really some trouble? Trust me, there isn't. Some people think it's amusing to call 911 because they need help with silly things. You'll figure once you pick up the call. Don't waste your time on these pranksters, when you could be attending someone who's in need of real help. Alright. Ethan had no intentions of breaking the rules here, but he was interested in receiving a call, so he could spring to action to save the day. The first night, however, went by awfully quiet. There was only one caller in the whole night. 911, what's your emergency? But the person disconnected the line. And then it was utter silence and boredom. The second night went by the same. Ethan received another call from the same number. Again, the person just hung up the phone. By the third night, Ethan was bored out of his mind. He started folding paper airplanes on his desk. Checking the clock every half hour. Suddenly, around 1, Ethan received a call. He hurried to answer it, but then recognized the number and frowned. Again? Ethan was obliged to pick up, so he simply leaned back without a word. When he suddenly heard a voice. Hello? Ethan was surprised to hear a young woman on the other end. 911 operator, what's your emergency? Something is wrong with electricity in my house. it keeps going on and off. I'm sorry, but I don't see any signs of a power outage in this area. You might want to call a technician and get that checked out. The lights are all flickering. It happens all of a sudden every night. I'm scared. Could you please stay on the line? Ethan knew he wasn't supposed to respond to these callers who didn't have any actual emergency. What's your name? I'm Rachel. Rachel? Rachel who? Rachel Green from Friends? No, I'm Rachel Collins. I'm Ross. Just kidding, it's Ethan. What's that noise in the background? The doors are creaking. They open and close by themselves. Sometimes, I even hear someone whistling. That's spooky. But it's probably just the wind. The weather has been pretty cold lately. Yes, it gets extremely cold here. The conversation with Rachel continued for over an hour, and Ethan had suspected that there may not have been any issue with the electricity at one point of the phone call, but he humored the young woman and chatted with her. The truth was, Ethan enjoyed the talk with Rachel. As a matter of fact, the next boring, lonely night, Ethan wished Rachel would call again. To his surprise, around the same time as the previous night, he received a call. I'm sure your electricity has been working today. What's the emergency, Rachel? Really? I thought you'd never realize. Or am I the fool here? You knew the whole time, didn't you? Maybe. But you just wanted to talk to me. That's why you called, didn't you? So Rachel, tell me something. Why is it that you prank call 911? Ever since Dad passed away, I've been living all by myself in this house. I'm so sorry to hear that. I don't have any close friends or relatives. It gets lonely, and to be honest, also scary. I was having a hard time falling asleep one night and I got this crazy idea to have a little fun. So I called 911. It's actually a good thing you called. The nights at the center go by so slow. Now I have a friend to talk to. But you didn't have the courage to speak the first few nights. Why'd you disconnect the line? I wouldn't have spoken, but when I called and heard your voice, it felt like you were different. Really, Miss Green? Over the week, Ethan and Rachel spoke every night for hours. Rachel spoke about her life. She was a college student. She had a hobby of woodcrafting. Ethan also expressed his likes and dislikes, his journey to the city and the struggles he went through. Rachel and Ethan enjoyed each other's company. What happened to you? Why'd you call so late tonight? No reason, just thought I'd check if you'd wait for me. I was waiting. I miss your silly jokes and your sweet laughter. Rachel, don't you have a hard time waking up? We talk all night. Would you rather I hang up and sleep? No, don't. I can't imagine what a miserable night that would be. Phew, I was afraid you would say yes. I can't sleep without talking to you. Soon Ethan found himself falling in love with this young woman. He wished to meet her, but Rachel felt a bit insecure. Rachel, I'd like to take you on a date. I don't know about that, Ethan. You like me now, but what if you don't like me once you see me? Do you suppose I'm that shallow? I've fallen for you, not your looks. It wasn't easy convincing Rachel. But finally, on the night before Christmas, she agreed and gave her address to Ethan. When you come here, you'll see a large oak tree, and right around the curb, I'll be waiting for you at my house. Wear an extra layer. You won't be able to bear the cold wind that passes down this road. The next evening, Ethan woke up early to visit Rachel before he would go to work. The address Rachel had given him was located in a quiet area of the town. Walking down the narrow road, Ethan spotted a turn at the end of the block. Soon he caught a glimpse of a large oak tree on the corner. He hurried in the direction. Rachel's house was probably around the curb. But when Ethan reached the end of the road, he was puzzled. It was a dead end. He stared at a burned-down, abandoned cabin a distance away. He checked the address again and roamed around the area. He'd come to the right place, but there wasn't anything here, nor was there anyone. Ethan was disappointed and a bit heartbroken. Did she prank me? As he walked towards the oak tree once again, he noticed something. There was something carved on the trunk. Ethan brushed his hand along Rachel's name carved on the tree. Rachel, she had a passion for woodcrafting, so this was the right address? Suddenly, a chilling, gusty breeze howled in the eerie silence. The winds increased and the weather started to become intolerable. Ethan felt something wasn't right. Something seemed so strange here. As time went by, he had to return for work. Reaching the call center, Ethan sat behind his desk, thinking about Rachel. What happened? Would he ever meet her? Ethan, how's everything going? Seeing Dwayne pass by, Ethan thought he asked him about the calls. Dwayne, for about 2 weeks or so, I've been getting calls from a young woman named Rachel. Is she one of the pranksters you were talking about? Dwayne furrowed his brows and said, You mean Rachel Collins? So you know her? I told you, this call center is unlike the others. We get strange calls at night. Usually, when we would get a call from this number, the caller wouldn't speak. That's why I told you about the pranksters, so you would disconnect the call. But there actually isn't any prankster or prank calls. Then, who is Rachel Collins? Ethan, there's something more to her case. Rachel Collins used to live with her father here. It's been about a year since her father passed away. The calls started after that. Rachel would call 911 3 or 4 times a week, but it was never a real emergency. At first, she always disconnected the line without saying anything. Later, however, she started asking for help with mundane tasks, which aren't normally dealt with by our first responders. Things like the electricity isn't working or the window got stuck. The house is freezing cold. We supposed she was a prankster and didn't pay heed to our calls. Things went on like this, and the dispatchers went along with the young woman and disconnected the line. But one night, Rachel called, and that time, something was different. Her voice sounded odd, and all she repeated was, "I need help." The dispatcher sensed the young woman may actually have been in trouble, but we supposed it was another prank call. It was all an act. We delayed to take action and didn't immediately inform the first responders. And by the time the first responders arrived on scene, Rachel had passed away on her bed. The unit on scene called dispatch to confirm if the woman herself had called 911, and we assured them it was. They came to the conclusion that her health had reached a horrible state by the time they reached there. There was truly an issue with the electricity in that house, and the heaters weren't working. The temperature in Rachel's room had dropped. She had passed away from hypothermia. But stranger things started to happen after Rachel's death. We continued to receive calls from Rachel, from the same address, but they weren't like before. She hung up without speaking. She lived in a small cabin on a narrow road about 20 miles from town. The cabin was left unoccupied after she passed away, and later it was vandalized and burned to the ground. But the phone calls didn't stop. Investigators were sent to the location, but not once did they find anyone on or near the property. We gave numerous calls to the phone company that confirmed the calls were coming from that address, but the phone line from that address had been disconnected immediately after Rachel passed away. We felt obligated to respond to Rachel's calls at first, but later we disconnected the line whenever we recognized it was her. Ethan was in a state of shock when he came to know the truth. He didn't know what to say. Dwayne noticed Ethan's uneasiness. He patted him on the back and sighed. "If you get the call again, just hang up." With that, Dwayne left. But Ethan couldn't think of anything other than all the conversations he had with Rachel. He immediately checked the call records. He saw the calls from Rachel's number every night, all those hours they spoke together. Ethan put on the headset and listened to the recordings. But to his surprise, he didn't hear Rachel. He was speaking all by himself. How could this be? There was no explanation to what he saw. The burnt house, the tree. There was no one there. Ethan anxiously waited for Rachel's call that night. He stared at the clock every passing minute. But Rachel didn't call. Not that night. Not ever again.
If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe to my channel and share this video with your friends and family.